Plot: In the Dark, 2019. A young, blind woman tries to solve her friend's murder. 11. I Woke Up Like This. Murphy and Jess borrow the Guiding Hope van to search for Max, leaving Felix in a precarious position. 12. Rollin' with the homies. It's Murphy's first birthday since Tyson was killed and she is feeling more isolated than ever. 13. It's Always Been You. Things begin to take an interesting turn between Murphy and Dean. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. Or maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular degeneration. From tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen White Cane.
Hello,
Hi, everybody.
and welcome to Citizen White Cane, the podcast that is addicted to analyzing blind representation in TV and film. My name is Sky McLeod,
I'm Melissa Bukta.
and we are finishing season 1 of In the Dark. We watched the final 3 episodes. So, if
Yes.
you are interested in watching the show, and not knowing who killed Tyson, the main mystery of the first season, then we will give you a few minutes or a little bit of time to stop right now, because this is definitely going to be an episode with spoilers. Also, we did just finished. This is almost a 2-part episode for us, because last week we did the 4 episodes before the 3 we're talking about today. So definitely, because it was just last week, and we did a whole rundown of the show. So if this is your first episode of the podcast, go back and listen to last week's episode first, and just so that you can get some context on the show, because we're not going to do as much explaining the show on this episode. So those are my disclaimers up top. Do you have any disclaimers, Melissa, to add on to that?
No, I think you pretty much got everything. Spoilers from here on in. And yeah, if you haven't listened to any of the other previous episodes, go back and do so, because this won't make any sense to you.
Yeah, and even if you haven't listened to the first 2, I think you can probably still. We tried last week to give some context for the first, because this is our 4th episode doing In the Dark. So, so I think if you don't want to go back and listen to the first and second one, I think you could probably still manage just by listening to this week or last week before this week's one. Just as a disclaimer, since sometimes the TV shows get less listens, so I think people are reticent to just hop in without listening to all of them. So this is my ploy to get more people to listen to the TV episodes, because this is I think we get to talk about a lot of interesting stuff with this show, and I think both this the episodes we watched today of the show and what we talked about last week is still really interesting. And if the show doesn't sound like it's up your alley, I think we still talk about a lot of really interesting stuff, so it's definitely worth tuning in for that. So how do we feel about the final 3 episodes? This is kind of the spoiler. If you haven't turned it off yet, I'm sorry guys, but we're gonna we're getting to the point.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. So what do we think of the last 3 episodes?
Oh my God, my stomach honestly was in knots for most of them, and I was really stressing out over just all these different things. And I have to say, I was, with a mystery, like you always want to feel satisfied when you figure out what the answer is. Even if you couldn't solve it, you should feel pretty satisfied. And I'm shit at solving mysteries, so I was actually pretty satisfied, and nice. I was devastated as to who it was. And it's the same. I know I kind of compared this to Broadchurch last time we were talking, and when Broadchurch's mystery got solved in the first season, I was also devastated. So I'm like, okay, I think that's my level of devastation is how I measure whether it's a good mystery or not.
That's
Because
good.
you should really care about the characters and about what's happened. And in Broadchurch, I was devastated for the main character because the outcome hits the main character like a ton of bricks. And in the Dark, I was fairly I was very sad for Murphy, but I was more devastated with the outcome of how it affects the person who actually committed the crime.
Yeah, which we could say now.
Or should we just say it? Okay.
Let's just say it. We're going to talk about the 3 episodes, so we might as well.
Oh my god.
Um,
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah.
It is our friendly police officer, Dean.
Yep. Officer Dean. We find out, and we're probably just going to be jumping around anyway because all these 3 episodes just kind of flowed together. But yeah, we find out that friendly Officer Dean, father of Chloe, killed Tyson in a fit of fear and rage and distress. I'm not excusing what he did. I think what he did was absolutely wrong, but those are the circumstances basically surrounding it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expect like the mystery to have a character that we liked previously sort of have their entire personality change in a way, you know what I mean? There's like a certain kind of like, because it can't be someone too like, you know, like mean or unreputable, because then it doesn't matter, you know, because then you're like, well, yeah, that guy sucked, like of course they were the ones who killed. So it's kind of like a weird thing where you always have to do that a little bit. It always has to be like, you know, that some character is going to turn out to be secretly evil when they seem pretty like, you know, serviceably nice beforehand. Like, so it's kind of like comes with the territory. So I was expecting that. I think, I don't know why, I knew it was a cop. It's funny, but I got the wrong cop, which I mean, I gotta say, I think like I'd rather it be the white dude cop than the black woman cop. I mean, that does make actually logically more sense of like who would be secretly evil. Because we see, I mean, really what happens is with Jules, the other police officer is horrible, but she basically is like, you know, she's taken off the case, and so she's going underground, and she's just basically like really coming, like she is figures out basically it's Dean, and she's killed for it, and it's like it's super tragic, and you like really feel so bad for her. Like she's really the most like tragic of the characters, because she like really was just trying to figure it out.
Do we know if she's actually dead, or? That's
true, we don't know. We just, yeah, that's true. We see that the voiceover said that she was checking their pulse, that the person who killed her is like a henchman of Nia, who is the you know, head drug dealer person that Tyson worked for, and so her hench person, I think, is like injects Jules with some sort of poison thing, we have to assume, and like the voiceover said they were checking for a pulse, so that's why I was like, oh, I guess if they're checking for a pulse, then that means that like I guess the idea is they're waiting, like they're actually waiting until they're dead. So, but you're right, it is pretty ambiguous. Like, I mean, it's not ambiguous, but it is still open-ended. Like, we don't see a funeral, or we don't see a casket being buried.
Yeah, it's this plot line is just kind of dropped, which I think obviously we're going to have to come back to it second season, because what's Darnell going to do about this?
Yeah, we got a lot of open-ended things, which, I mean, it made sense, because we have now the other big thing at the very end of the show that sets up the second season is that now Guiding Hope, the guide dog school that Murphy and a lot of the characters work at, is now basically is taking over for laundering money. Since Max is in these episodes, who was originally laundering the drug money, is like completely MIA now, because he was an informant and he's running from everyone. So now they're the one. So now Guiding Hope becomes the money laundering front. So that's the big season
Yeah.
2 setup.
And I mean, right, because I was curious, because I mean, there's no way. I was like, there's no way they can keep this whole who murdered Tyson thing
you can't
going for multiple seasons. I don't know, you can't. And I think they made the wise decision to figure out that plot line. But yeah, then you're like, well, where do you go for season 2? And yeah, I think season 2 is going to be really interesting, because this is now Murphy is going to have to deal with the fallout of all of this. And now with Mia out of jail and Guiding Hope becoming a drug front, basically. Oh my God, I
like that. I thought it was such a cute. I think I just was like a cute story thing of like, when they did that, I was like, oh yeah, that's a great way to set up season 2. Like, I was just like, because I was really worried. I was like, how are they? What is gonna happen in season 2? That's gonna be a thing. And then I was like, oh, of course, we've had this whole thing about Guiding Hope like being basically completely like, you know, used like a money sink. Like, of course that's what's gonna happen. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, my heart was in my throat for Felix and everybody that worked at Guiding Hope, because I'm just like, this is so unfair. Everything that is happening to them is just awful. And Felix's mother cuts him off because she sends an appraiser to appraise the business, and of course everything goes to shit. And I was really upset with Murphy.
Yeah, me too.
And a little bit with Jess, because I'm just like, you are fucking up his day and you don't care.
Yeah.
And Felix could save the business. He has come in as your angel to save the business, and you just, okay, well, we're gonna go off and do this thing. I get it. Like, plot needs to happen.
Yeah, it felt so plotty though. Like, I was just but I was just, of all the things, you couldn't take a lift instead of because that's the linchpin of this whole, like, them fucking it up. It starts with them, and kind of it hinges on the reason why Felix fucks everything up is because Murphy has Jess steal the truck for the dogs van, and then and then it's a domino effect from there. And this is like right after, because in the last episode from last week, she's stranded on a boat, and poor Murphy has to fucking find her way back, which was just such a such an upsetting, like, that whole thing. It was so upsetting to me. And that, like, and then she gets back to Guiding Hope, and she's like she wants to find Max, who was the one who abandoned her. And I was like, no, what the fuck? Why didn't we learn anything? I mean, like, just like, why would you want to go? It just didn't even make any sense. Like, I just can't even imagine, like, after going through all of that, the last thing on my mind would be like, I need to find Max, this fucking, like, psychopath that I broke up with, and who's been like fucking like awful to me, and like then abandoned me. I would not be able to forgive him for any of that. And the fact that she's instantly back on, like, I guess because she's like, oh, we got to find Max to like figure out who killed Tyson. Is that even part of it at that point? I don't even know.
Well, she wants to find Max because, you know, they love each other, and she cares about him, I guess. And so she just, you know, wants to know what happens to him.
Yeah.
But you know that
it doesn't really make any sense to me.
No.
That entire episode just felt like we gotta stir the shit, kind of, and it was just like a lot of this stuff feels sort of really played up, you know, like it just felt like you're raising the stakes way higher than felt reasonable, you know, like it was just all such high stakes stuff, and people were acting in such kind of weird compulsive ways that were so, you know, unthought out, that I was just like, this feels it I don't know, I kind of just got impatient with it, because I was just like, this is you've set the stakes so high, and then all the characters are acting so weird and irrationally. Like, it just felt like, I don't know, it just was too much for me.
I haven't necessarily been rooting for Max this whole time, but he just up and disappears. Yeah. And just leaves.
He's a fucking asshole. He's the worst.
Right. And she has to go track him down, which causes, she has to beg Jess for help, and Jess helps her because she's Saint Jess, and that causes guiding hope to maybe sort of go under until Felix is like, yeah, no, let's just go find this drug money
Yeah.
that Murphy said Max had, and Jess goes along with it, and I'm just like, oh my god, what is happening?
Yeah. It is a very ridiculous thing, and it's also just like Jess was so obviously not happy with what was going on the entire time.
Mhm.
Like, it was there's just a weird
Well,
thing
and
of
I
like
really-
Murphy was not reacting to the fact that Jess was so checked out and so annoyed. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think
And
I could handle that if I was
No, and I hate the whole like, I'm not your friend anymore. Last for an episode, not last for half an episode. Oh, okay, no worries, we're friends again.
Yeah,
And
it
I'm
felt
like,
like way too ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I get that like they've been friends forever, and so just cutting yourself off and saying, "Well, fuck you, I'm not your friend anymore." That's hard. I mean, they're codependent,
yeah, they are.
and but of course, then Jess comes back to her.
Right.
Which-
Yeah.
It's I wanted to be more upset about it than I ended up being, because I'm like, Jess, no, like what the hell are you doing?
Like, when
but-
she comes back to Murphy?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I thought it was the other way around. I was like, Jess, what are you doing when she was like, did a friend breakup? It's like, if you have a problem, you guys got to talk it out. Like, I don't know how helpful it is
Right.
to just abandon her. Like, that doesn't seem like that it solves anything. It just puts her in like the victim seat. Like, it doesn't prove anything. You're just kind of being like
Mhm.
aloof, and instead of really addressing it, you're just kind of avoiding it. I mean, like,
Mhm.
she says why she's like doesn't want to be friends with Murphy, but I felt like it was just frustrating because I was like, you guys should have had this conversation a while ago. And it was frustrating with both of them in some ways, because Murphy was just so unfazed by Jess being mad.
Mhm.
And that felt
Mhm.
like, I was like, what is Murphy doing? Like, Jess is obviously mad. I was like, if I was Murphy, I would not be able to, like, I would be so upset by this entire situation, because I would be so, like, I'd be like, Jess, why are you so mad at me? Like, but Murphy seems like she's completely in denial about it, which is just weird, because, like, Jess was obviously really mad, but not addressing it. I don't know. I didn't really empathize with either of them in that situation. I was just like, what are either of you doing? You're both acting irrationally. Like,
Right.
But then, like, Murphy's just all alone in the apartment then, because, like, Jess moves out for a time. It just felt so unproductive to me. Like, I get, like, wanting some distance for some reason, but it was, like, specifically, like, I need time away from you, and so, I don't know, it just felt really weird and hostile to me, and I felt like Jess, she kind of let me down with that. I don't know if it's not that I don't, maybe her character, it's not uncharacteristic of her, like, that is a thing that can happen, but it just made me really frustrated with her, because it felt like she wasn't actually even trying to address the problem. She was just trying to, like, make it not her problem anymore, and that kind of bummed me out.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, if you want to examine this relationship, let's examine this relationship, but then it's moot, because it's fine. Everything is cool again.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I don't want to watch any more of this. I was so happy they made up so
True.
quickly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't want to watch these two not be friends. So maybe that's why they happened. But I definitely don't. I hope that somebody learns something from this, and that, like, Murphy learns that Jess is her friend, but they can't have this, like, codependent relationship anymore, because it's really unhealthy. And
Yeah.
I hope that Jess learns to say no to Murphy every now and again.
Right. Well,
'Cause I know
that's
she
the
tries.
question, is, like, how do you, like, make a codependent relationship less codependent is the question. Like, I don't know what the answer is. Like,
Mhm.
is it that you just end the relationship entirely? Like, what, or do you, because then if you're doing that, you have to just no longer be friends ever again. Like, and that
Right.
seems probably not all that helpful if, like, neither of them are totally, like, horrible people, like, they both seem like they could theoretically be friends, but I wanted them to have a little bit more of just like a more productive conversation about it. You know, like
Yeah, of course.
but yeah, it was. It's also like, I don't know, Murphy was like also making me really annoyed too with all the stuff she was doing. It felt kind of like weirdly like antisocial, and the running after Max thing just felt kind of unmotivated. I was just like, why? Why are you doing this? But I don't know. Also just like she just seems so like able to handle these weirdly traumatic, like I would be so mad at someone who abandoned me like that. I would definitely not want to be around them again, like after what Max did. I would definitely not actively be searching for them. I would never want to see them again. Like that was so awful what he did. But
yeah
I don't know. But yeah, she's Murphy. I don't know. I guess after this entire season, what do we think about Murphy? Like, how do we feel about her? I don't know.
That's a really good question. I think I like her more because but I don't know if that's I like her more because her character has changed, or I like her because I've just gotten used to her behavior. And I'm like, okay, well, this is Murphy because we've been with her for 13 episodes. I do think she's changed a little bit, or grown. I guess I don't want to use the word change, but like grown a little bit. And I think she has much, much more potential to grow.
Yeah, definitely.
Over the next season or couple seasons or however long this story lasts. I mean, you know, she throws away her cigarette at the hospital.
Oh yeah, does this mean she's quitting smoking?
Right, maybe. I don't know. I don't know, because we thought she was quitting drinking, and she got, you know, after that whole incident happened, the first thing she does on her birthday is to go to the local Five and Dime and buy wine and a sandwich.
Oh, did she say she was giving up drinking?
I don't remember. I don't think it's explicitly stated, because they talked a little bit about, like, different characters bring up her quote unquote alcoholism, and she's like, I'm not an alcoholic. And I don't think she is an alcoholic quite yet, but I know she definitely uses like liquor to cope with things.
Yeah, she just doesn't really have a lot of coping strategies at all that are healthy.
Right. Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's hard because, I mean, it's not like that's not a thing for people, but I think there is sometimes you're just like, oh, she's like a blind character. Why don't you make her more like... Just like, I don't know, you want someone who's at least a little bit more like present. Like she always feels like she's like disassociated, and that's like such a traumatic thing for blind people. I mean, I don't know, or maybe I don't know if it's all blind people, but I know it is for me. Like watching her being so disassociated, it's like I don't want to watch that. I want to watch like someone that I don't want someone who reminds me of like the worst times of my life. I want someone who reminds me of like, you know, what my life could be, and like like something aspirational, which I think we were talking about last week. So not to totally repeat myself, but yeah, it is like, I think the disassociating kind of things I was just kind of sad that she was still so disassociated in so much of the final 3 episodes. Like it almost felt like she was more disassociated in the final 3 episodes. And I just didn't want to, I'm just sad about seeing that so much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, disassociated is a really good word to use, because I was trying to figure out what was happening when her and Dean finally spend the night together. And they climb into bed and it just focuses in on her face throughout most of the scene.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't place the expression or what I was seeing or what the audio description was describing to me. But I think disassociate is the perfect word to describe that. And then well, she even, you know, explains it in the car, because Dean's like, but we slept together. And
which
like,
is so dumb.
Sex means nothing to me.
Yeah, use it to get what I want is what she says.
Exactly. Yeah. I use it to get what I want. Yeah.
Which is just like, he's such an idiot though. Like if he didn't realize that, I don't even understand what is going through his head. Like, it's just like, it wasn't, she obviously was not into it. Like, I don't understand how he could be that stupid.
Not into it and onto him, basically. Like Murphy
Yeah.
left pretty much knowing that Dean was who he was, and she left with him to get a confession, which is what she got.
Well, sort of, because they're already on the
Kind of,
road when
yeah.
she figures it all out, and they're
Right,
and so
right.
she had planned this like getaway thing for the weekend, which was set
right,
up
'cause
before we knew anything. So yeah, so it was
'cause
kind of
all of a sudden she's gonna be with him or whatever. Yeah,
right, and then she kind of figures out on a rest stop basically that it's him. And then so yeah, she continues to get a confession. She could have potentially just like called 911 when the second she realized, and like, you know, whatever, but she decides to keep going and try to get a confession out of him, which I mean, I guess makes dramatic sense, and it wouldn't have been easy for her to get out of that situation. So
well, and it's interesting because I mean, the confession was really interesting because I mean, it could have gone one of two ways. She could have, you know, flipped. I mean, she already knew it was him, but still, she could have flipped out and tried to beat the shit out of him and screamed at him, you know, why you killed, you know, what did you do? You killed Tyson, which does happen.
yeah.
But it's interesting to see her kind of, in a really weird way, take charge of that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, she is really manipulative in that moment because she wants to, you know, she wants to get the information that she needs. But for a second there, I was just like, what if these people just go off together? Like, what would happen?
Yeah.
If she, but then, like, you know, that she could never accept the fact that that Dean killed Tyson.
Right, and she's
Murphy could never accept that.
She's so like, I know, I understand why you did it. It's, you know, it was all for Chloe. So you're like, okay, well, she obviously doesn't believe that. You know, she likes Chloe, but
like, whoa, yeah.
But I think they do kind of build it up. I'm like, why would they go this direction? And then she says something about like, I know that you didn't mean to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So she's like fucking with him, basically. Of course she doesn't think that. She's very, because she just wants to know, kill Tyson. Why would she have more of a Dean, who also she didn't even really like ever really want, like, he similarly she didn't want to go out with, and then he kind of is like, kind of also wears her down in a way where I was just kind of disappointed that even before she knows anything about him being Tyson's killer, she's kind of like charmed by him in a way where I'm like, come on, why is she so easily charmed by people?
Well, he starts out as, you know, friendly Officer Dean, like bumbling friendly Officer Dean, and oh my god, he also has a kid who's blind. Holy crap, they have so much in common now. I mean,
yeah.
It's I can't remember what my guess was last week. But I could have swore I said something like, it's going to be someone we've met already. I didn't know who
No,
it
you
was,
said it was going to be someone we hadn't met already.
Hadn't met. Did I? Dang it. Yeah. Oh, I was going to be like, I'm so clever. Okay, no, see, I'm shit at solving mysteries. I told you. Yeah, so there it is.
I said the wrong partner in a cop partner duo. And also, after watching the first of these 3 episodes, I was like, okay, well, I'm wrong. It's definitely not Jules. Like, definitely, based on her behavior, absolutely not her. Because it's like, we see her internal process trying to solve the mystery. So why would we ever show that if she was the one who did it? There would be no reason to show that.
Right.
Once we start getting that, perspective.
Yeah, and she's the one who decides to go rogue. And if you think about the journey, and if you think about the journey of like these episodes, Dean was almost always the one who was like, oh, we're working on it. Oh, we'll figure it out.
Right, he's the one taking charge. It does make sense. Yeah.
Like I'm just really sorry, Murphy, but we can't do anything about the phone because that's not police procedure. You know, you should go home and stop trying to figure this out because you're not a police officer. Like, he railroaded her
Yeah.
almost every step of the way.
It does make sense if you look back on it. It's a good, I mean, and it's funny because I was like, I don't want to fucking empathize with a cop, like a white dude cop. And I'm like, fuck yeah, thank you for in the end of being totally exactly how I feel about the world existing. My disbelief does not need to be suspended very much to be like, yeah, cop, white dude cop. Asshole kills a poor 16-year-old black boy. That tracks entirely with everything I know about the world. So which I like that. I appreciate that.
Right. But I'm also really glad, like you said, that the villain wasn't this like mustache turning, like behind the scenes villain. I like that they withheld it who the true killer was until.
It's funny because I was surprised how much we really like how early we find out, because we kind of find out it's Dean before we find out it's Dean at the beginning of, or at the end of the penultimate episode. So we spend the entire finale knowing it's Dean, and actually we know before Murphy does, which I was also surprised by because I really thought that we were going to learn with Murphy, but we actually basically know it's Dean. Like before, like, because technically they don't come out and be like, this is how Dean did it, this is exactly what happened, but you have all the things where you're like, well, it kind of has to be him, like who else could it be at this point, like he is obviously connected to Nia. It wouldn't like because we see that the police officer is the one who is meeting with Nia, so this is what Jules sees, and so she's like, oh, it has to be a police officer who killed Tyson, that would make sense. And then we also know that that Dean said that he was going to be meeting with Jules, and then she's not there, like, and then we see the scene with her spying on someone, and they're a cop, and then like I think after that we see a shot, like we see it's like, oh, his shoes, he's a cop, and then we see another shot of like Dean coming home, and we see the same shot of his foot with the gun. Well, so you're like, it's just like, it's obviously Dean.
And at first I was like, no, that's too obvious. Like that, this has to be. It cannot be that simple. They're just trying to like throw us off. For like the whole ending of that episode, I was like, no. They're just trying to throw us off because I am a sap and a simpleton, and I really didn't want it to be Dean. I really didn't want it to be Dean, but of course it's him.
Yeah, and also, so his motive was that he needed to get medical bills related. It's so much, right? It's so funny how much American TV would not even make any sense if like we had socialized healthcare. It's almost like,
oh, I know, right?
It's so funny how many plots are like literally need that. I don't know what TV's gonna do if we ever get single payer. They're gonna like have to rewrite all the shows to make sense. But so that's like why he is working for Nia. Because he needs extra money because his wife does die from the car accident that blinds Chloe.
Right.
So that's like, it's not super, like I couldn't fully track exactly what was it to save Chloe's life, and then like it was all, I actually also was just trying to keep track of everything and couldn't entirely. Yeah,
I mean they say surgery, medical bills and stuff, so I'm assuming it was something, must have had to do with that, like she had physically injured herself, like broke a lot of bones or something, or needed a skin graft, I don't know, but it was an exorbitantly priced surgery that there was no way he was going to pay for with his department health care. So,
come on, police unions,
the dirty cop.
Police unions, you can't fucking pay for health care. They're the fucking fuck police unions. But I mean, I don't know. It seems like he's being a fucking baby about it. But like, he probably is enough money. He can, just get taken off the force and still have enough money to fucking pay for whatever. It's fine. So So he
I
goes.
don't know. Maybe it was some crazy experimental surgery. I don't know.
Who knows? But like, so that's why he is working with Nia to like basically make it so that she doesn't have to go to jail, and she can run her business having like a police officer that's on their side. Basically, is what is kind of, I guess, what Dean is like doing, and then Tyson finds out that Dean from like them sharing a locker, because Tyson works for Nia, or also worked for Nia doing drug dealing, and so Tyson sees that Dean is also working for Nia because they're going to the same locker that Nia uses.
And then Tyson and Wesley get picked up and taken to the police station. And we've seen this in a prior flashback, but we didn't see the whole thing.
Right.
Because what we didn't see was Dean basically being like, "Oh, you're Nia's guy." I mean, he doesn't say this obviously, but he's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll just, I'll just get you out of here."
Right, which is to like cover up his tracks, is it? Like, or is it just that he?
I think it started out that he was literally just doing Tyson a solid.
Because I thought it was that if Tyson was questioned, then he was worried that like Tyson would say something about him. Yeah.
Right. That was after he got Tyson off, though, because Wesley was going to talk, I believe, was what it was, or something. Yeah.
Right. So because Wesley got a bigger sentence than Tyson after all of this.
Right.
Because of Dean helping him out, but it didn't.
Correct.
Why would he just be helping him out? It seemed like he had the motive to not have Tyson be interrogated, because then it could go back to Dean that what was going on. Like then if Tyson was interrogated, he could have said something about how Dean was helping, and then put Dean in. Yeah.
Either way, because of what Dean did, it all went south, and he realizes that, well, because him and Tyson can't come to an agreement, Tyson's just like, screw it, I'm just gonna. Because Tyson was scared because Wesley thought that Tyson snitched on him.
Right. So Wesley was threatening to kill Tyson.
Right. And Tyson came to Dean for help, and Dean was like, I can't help you anymore. I will be implicated.
Right.
And Tyson was basically like, fine, then I'll just go implicate you. And, well, Dean couldn't have that. So in a fit of rage and confusion, he choked him to death. He strangled Tyson, which is why we couldn't find any gunshots or anything on Tyson's body there, which explains the 2 handprints that were found on Tyson's body.
No, because then because then he also shoots him in a bag.
Oh God, you're right.
Because he wakes up.
You're right. That was the worst because the whole sleeping bag thing happens. Murphy finds the body, and then Dean puts Tyson in the trunk of Tyson's car, and Tyson is alive.
Right, which is Tyson, why we already knew this because of a lot of stuff that had happened previously. We knew that Tyson, when Murphy found him, was alive, but then was dead, and we knew that there was strangling and bullets, so we knew that potentially 2 people had killed him, but in the end it was just that Dean shot him and also strangled him, so he did both.
I guess just seeing it is pretty visceral, but
it's just extreme. And it was also to say there was nothing about Chloe. That was just so that Dean didn't get in trouble. It wasn't like, it truly wasn't even about Chloe at that point.
No. Well, I mean, in a way, Dean didn't want to lose his job or get fired or anything, because then no money for Chloe. But
but still, like, she'd probably already they were probably done with the surgery. It'd probably been paid out, like, maybe we don't know any of that. And also, again, you're part of a police union. You're set for life. You don't have to behave in any sort of upstanding citizen way. The fucking police union is just gonna like make sure that you get a pension that you get paid out for the rest of your life, and you're fine. Especially
he won't get the pension if he's implicated and found out to be a dirty cop.
I no, seriously though, no, he still would. It doesn't matter. Fucking police officers can murder as many people as they want and do as many bullshit things as they want. They're still gonna be covered. Like, it's truly not even a thing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The police union not protecting him is like, come on. In Chicago, aren't they in Chicago, right? No.
Yeah, Chicago.
Some bullshit. That's fiction. Like, this is complete fiction that he would have any fear of retribution. Like, he's said the police unions basically allow cops to just fucking murder as many people as they want, do as many bad things as they want. Yeah. Can you guess how I feel about police officers and police unions?
Yeah,
Feel accurately about them, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, no excuse to like kill this young boy over everything that he was going through.
Yeah, even if it made any sense given how, police are basically given the green light to kill and do as many horrible things as they want. Like, even if that made sense, it's still not acceptable to kill a poor kid, like, just because they're because it also, I just didn't understand by the end how it even had to do with Chloe at all anymore. It seemed like entirely to save his own ass. Like, it didn't seem like it had anything to do with her.
You're right, it had nothing to do with Chloe. No, it was entirely at this point to save his ass and to save his job. And like Murphy says, Tyson had a family, he had a mother, he had a girlfriend, like, and you didn't think about that as you killed him in cold blood. Yeah. None of that flashed through your mind?
When it was just like literally his biggest fear was maybe he would go to jail. And I think it was like that he would go to jail so he could still be a parent to Chloe. And it's like, well, obviously you're a horrible parent to her if you're willing to kill another kid that's like her age. Like,
and just walk. Well, and the fact that he's just, you can kind of analyze his behavior through the entire season. And the fact that he's just he's the nice guy and he's so calm and he's just helping Murphy solve this murder and and I guess the monsters are the ones that are hiding in plain sight.
I mean, sort of. I do think that with TV, the problem is you always have to have a character that doesn't seem that bad. Like, because again, like, if it's a really horrible psychopathic character that everyone hates, it's like, yeah, of course they're the murderer. Like, they're the terrible guy that everyone hates. Like, why wouldn't it be them? Like, it's not really a mystery if it's just the most, like, shitty human being in the entire, cast of characters. And but I don't think I think it's just because of how you have to plot these things. It is like, that is the suspension of disbelief with mysteries, because you have to do that, like, so that people don't suspect the most horrible person. But I think in real life, you usually can tell. Like, you kind of know the shitty people. At least disabled people get to know who the shitty people are because they're shitty to us. Like, it's just like, we know who they are. Right. It's like, it's just because of TV. Like, I guess any mystery where you're trying to get it so the audience doesn't know who did it, then that's when you have these, like, reversals. But I think for the most part, people are horrible. You can kind of figure it out, especially the less privilege you have, the more obvious it is also, because, like, people who are horrible treat people with less privilege horribly. So, it's easy.
Right.
But yeah, I think it just has to do with how you have to structure, which, I mean, as much as I've always thought it has to be closer to reality person, I'm like, yeah, what are you gonna do? You kind of have to do that. It doesn't really work if you don't do it. If you make it, if you make the worst character the murderer, then it's not very fun to watch. That's not as fun.
No, right.
Someone that you like, or someone that you at least didn't suspect to be evil, like that. That I think works better. But it's kind of. I mean, his character does change. Like, he does change as a character because he's a lot more nervous and, like, controlling in a way that he just wasn't before. Like, he's just kind of like the, he was kind of dumb, but like kind of like, white dude.
It's all
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but he's also very calculated, because if, the whole thing with Tyson's body happened right after Murphy found him dead or alive. And we just, obviously it's TV, so we just didn't see the whole part of that scene, which was Dean disposing and murdering of Tyson. And then, in that first episode, him and Jules are at Murphy's house. So he just did this.
Right. It was so recently.
And just is like, okay, well, why don't you just tell us what happened and I'll just take the evidence and don't worry about it. Come see us at the station. La-di-da.
Right.
I mean, just
it's so
wow.
Yeah, you can't, like, that's not what would be the reality of it. Yeah, it's just you do have to, like, really suspend disbelief. Like, there's no way that he would be, and just, like, so jovial and just kind of like,
well, and just being like, just being like, Murphy's like, I know he was alive in my bones. And oh, well, you're so dismissive of that.
right. Which is, yeah, I mean, and that, at least the dismissiveness is like, okay, well, that seems rational. Given if he was the killer, that he would be dismissive of that. But, like, it does seem, I'm also just like, how the fuck did he get rid of the body and then got back to the precinct and then answered a call to go back to the, like, what happened in that?
Right.
Is that really,
that's what I
could that even make any sense that he would, like, be so, yeah.
I think that's a little bit of TV magic, but yeah, no, I thought the same thing. I was like, wait a minute, and then you showed up at her house,
right? Like, instantly
in uniform. Yeah, I'm like,
doesn't make sense.
I call shenanigans, but hey.
Yeah, it's yeah, there's some of it that you have to kind of suspend the disbelief for, but I thought it was Jules, so equally problematic because they were both there together. So
right, it's interesting. Like, I suspected everybody else except Jules. Like, I knew she was, quote unquote, playing both sides. Like, but it's hard because Jules technically is a dirty cop.
Yeah, but she's like the righteous kind.
Right. She's doing what she's doing because it's right.
Well, because it's like, it's the whole, like, they were just on the other, I feel like this was also like a thing in Orange is the New Black, where it's like, we just, like, you have the two black characters, one's a police officer and one's like, in prison, like incarcerated or like on the wrong side of things or dealing drugs or something, and it's just like, yeah, it's just luck of the draw, we're just as, one of us is just as likely to be in this position. It's not like either of us did anything different. It's just like, that's the the fucked up thing about the society is sometimes you get to be the one side or the other, and it's complete randomness. And so there's kind of like, I think Jules and Darnell have that dynamic, and that they're a couple, and they're just like, were both found themselves on the other side of the quote unquote law or whatever.
They're the most normal, well-adjusted couple in this entire show.
Yeah, it's funny. They
By
do
the
kind
way.
of. They're not. It's, yeah. You don't really. I mean, the relationship sometimes is like. I mean, I guess they play up the drama because they're literally always trying to be like Jules has to constantly be trying to pretend like she wants to arrest him, like, like they're in a really ridiculous space. So all of their fighting is kind of like, yeah, I mean, in this situation it makes sense to fight because your entire job is to, like, put your partner in jail. So it seems like that would cause some friction at times, but, like, it is funny that they're both like want to be in the relationship, and, like, Jules is truly, like, not, she really is kind of she's a weird character in that she is very torn about it, but Jules seems kind of like, I don't know, she seems like she's always going to be sort of protecting Darnell, but she does kind of, she does a bit of vacillating, like going back and forth, which would make sense. I mean, it's such a ridiculous position to be in.
Well, if Jules really is dead, I would like to think she's not. Like, I don't know what they injected her with, but if she isn't dead, if she isn't dead, I don't know what's going to happen. But if she is dead, if she is actually dead, there's going to be a war between Nia and Darnell when Darnell finally gets out of prison.
Yeah,
or wherever they're holding him.
Definitely. And then where will Murphy be? Is the question.
Well, exactly, because now Murphy's involved, whether she likes it or not. And it's what really struck me when Nia handed Murphy the key in the last episode. Oh my God, it's this vicious cycle that starts all over again. Like, one of her guys is killed, one of her guys is in traction in the hospital, and yet here's Murphy with the key, and now Guiding Hope is the drug front, and it's just like, my God, it's this whole thing just starts over again with new players.
Yeah. Which, I mean, makes sense for season 2 once you've solved the main mystery of the show. Though it does make me wonder, is the second season is going to be where, you know, like we had Veronica Mars was what I was thinking of for the first season. But, like, by the second season, there's not really going to be another mystery or anything.
Right. So what is this show going to become? Unless there's another mystery.
Right. Unless they set it up in the first episode of the second season, which could happen.
Right.
Because that would also.
Well, what happened in the second season of Veronica Mars?
They set it up in the first episode of season 2. So
there it is. Yeah, because obviously Veronica figures out who killed her friend. Who killed her friend in the first season? So.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So technically, they could do the same thing, though. I think we find out when. Do we find out when Veronica finds out who did it? Now I can't exactly remember the chronology, but I was surprised that that Murphy found out after we did who did it. But yeah, it is. But then I guess, right. So we don't really have something that now Murphy just has to become a criminal, quote unquote. Because I mean, you know, it's whatever the laws. There's a lot of dumb things, and I don't know. Just dealing drugs it's questionable. The whole thing is all very questionable. The war on drugs and everything, but like, it puts her more in a position of reacting, whereas I feel like was way more like trying to put the pieces together in the first season, and I kind of like the putting the pieces together construction. Just as a viewer, I just find it more fun to watch. Like, I like being like, who could it be? Like, what are the clues? Like, what do we know? Like that I feel more engaged. Whereas I feel like when she's in a position of reacting, it's a little bit more like, okay, well, you know, the show just needs to keep putting things in her way then. And then, like, she's not trying to get anywhere, really, other than, like, she might be trying to get out of a situation, but it's like but then I think a lot of TV shows right now are, like, someone trying to get out of a situation, and kind of, like, they're basically, like, the Cat in the Hat, but just, like, just an entire TV show of that entire idea of just like you spill something and then everything you do just makes it bigger and bigger, and then at a certain point it's just like, okay, so we're just gonna get bigger and bigger, and then they're just gonna get more and more incapable of dealing with everything, and then it just feels sometimes where you're like, oh, this is less fun. Like, it's more stressful, whereas there's something where you're like, oh, this person is figuring out what happened. You know, it feels more active in a way that I appreciate, because I feel more engaged, and I also feel like we're going to something, you know, like there's like I want to keep watching, because if I give up, I'm not going to find out who did it. You know, like, and so there's always that incentive to like keep watching, whereas, you know, if it's just kind of someone keeps progressively fucking up their life more and more, then I'm just like, I don't know, do I want to watch them fuck up more? Like, they're just gonna fuck up more. I don't know. I can only handle so much of that, but we'll see. Maybe they'll set up another mystery, but I do like the mystery format more, so I'm a little sad that we won't have as much of that if we don't.
Well, I mean, there's the big mystery, you know, for the second season is like, it's I think the second season is going to focus a lot more on Guiding Hope and what's happening over there now that they're laundering money.
right which is like, that's enough to, I mean, a lot of TV shows have this plot. Like, it's actually weirdly many TV shows with the exact same plot, but like,
well, it's like is Felix gonna go with this plan? Is Jess gonna go with this plan? What? And obviously they can't tell Murphy's parents, who are still very active at Guiding Hope. So it's like, what? I don't know how long they're gonna be able to keep this up or get away with it.
Right, which is just kind of like, so we'll be watching them, which it's kind of sad, because you do, I don't know, I think a lot of shows will do this where they'll have a mystery of the first season, and then they'll just be like, instead of trying to manufacture another mystery, they'll just kind of just blow things up for everyone involved. And I don't know how excited, like, overall, if I'm super excited for that. It will be interesting. I definitely want to watch it, but I think that, like, if there's not another mystery, which there probably won't be, then it might. It definitely could just veer off into like a place where I'm just kind of bored by it, you know, because it's just like a bunch of like, because you have like characters like Felix and Jess are pretty untouched by the stuff, you know, they're trying to do their best in ways, and like even Murphy, she fucks up a lot of stuff for herself in ways that are annoying, but like it just feels like the setup for the next season will be a lot more of characters just continuously fucking things up for themselves, which I'm less excited to watch than, you know, people trying to figure stuff out. But yeah, I don't know. How are you feeling about season 2? What do you, yeah.
I'm more excited for it than I ever thought I would be.
Interesting.
Going into this show, because I just like, I don't know, like the first couple of episodes, you know, it's fine, but it's not really doing anything for me. And then the second batch of episodes was a little bit better, but I was just still like, fine, it's still not really doing much for me, but this is fine, you know, it's good. I don't mind. It's not a chore having to watch this show. I don't mind. And then after 7, like the whole thing just whoosh, like totally ramped up, and I was like, wow, I love this. I am totally invested in what's happening now. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, how after this week, do you feel a little less?
I watched the first like 5 minutes of this season 1 of episode 1 of season 2, and then was like, no, stop, because we'll probably be watching it for the podcast.
Yeah. Way to jump ahead of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing, but yeah, no, I do very much want to keep going and find out what happens to Murphy and what happens to Felix and Jess and everybody.
Yeah.
I want to know what happens to Dean when he wakes up out of his, I don't know, they didn't specify coma, but like he's in traction, so I don't know. Well, but what happens to Chloe? My God, what happens to Chloe?
I know, Chloe is the one I'm really worried about. I hope she's,
yeah.
I mean, they gotta bring her back, but yeah, it would be interesting. I'm like, who's she gonna wind up in the foster care system? Like, what will happen?
Right? Like, what if Murphy becomes her foster mom? Like, wouldn't that just be fucking weird?
It'd be very bizarre. I was like, would they do that? It seems like a little too ridiculous to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought about that. I was like, is that where they would head with it? But yeah, it is. I enjoy watching the show. I think like, yeah, I mean, I guess I also have like a lower bar with TV if it's like fast paced and stuff's happening and there's some characters I can, you know, get invested in. I'm like, that's enough for me. You know, I'm in for the ride. But so I think I would definitely on my own watch season 2. I think definitely it's a, you know, it's a fun show. There's a lot of it's fun. Some of the blind stuff is really fun. Sometimes I get like sad when they don't do as much as they could with it, but like I also think that it is, you know, I don't think it's too bad because you have blind writers, like, so it's not bad in the way that like it feels way more like this is the kind of like we're just writing her as a person with a certain, you know, who has a certain identity, as opposed to like where blindness is a metaphor. It's like, no, we just have a character who's blind and has the experiences of blind people, and so the blind people experiences are part of this, like, which is sadly very refreshing. But yeah.
I might have to talk to, because my D&D group we were talking about the show a little bit when we first started watching it, and just one of my friends in the group is just vehemently opposed to the show, and she's just like, the main character is just a trash human being, and I don't know, I don't think I can get into it. I just don't really like anything about it. And I'm like, yeah, I hear that, I understand. And now, having watched the first season, I think I'd be more willing to tell them like, hey, you should give it a try. Try again. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But, you know, give it a try.
Yeah, I think it's annoying because I hear arguments like that all the time, and then yet so much TV, it's like you're required to make a character, the main character nobody likes, and then it's like, what?
Mhm.
Why do we do this? Like, people don't actually want this. Like, this is not what people want at all. But I don't
Right.
know.
Murphy is a very prickly human being, and she makes really stupid choices. But I actually still like her as a character.
Yeah, I think I want her to, like, if she's gonna make dumb choices, I wish they were a little bit more justified. Like, I wish I could see her more as being in a difficult spot. Like, sometimes she just makes stupid decisions where I'm like, what? Why is she doing this? Like, this just doesn't even, like,
Mhm.
it doesn't feel as motivated by anything, and it just feels, like, so specifically self-destructive in a weird way that's, like, I don't know if people really do this kind of, like, it just seems like weirdly, like, I don't even know why she would do this. Like there are some of the, like, the self-destructive behavior seems like totally just random and weird, so that can be kind of annoying. But, like, I wish that she, because you relate to her, and then sometimes then she just disappears, and you're like, what? Now you're not a person anymore. Like, now you're just behaving in, like, some weird way of, like, someone, like, oh, I know people who are some sort of dysfunctional, and so I'm just gonna, like, write some of the weird stuff. I don't understand why they do this, but I'm gonna write this in the show. And you're like, well, if you don't understand why they do it, you can't write it in the show. You gotta understand why someone does what they do before you can write a character doing that. But it always feels like some of her behavior, the writers are just like, question mark, I don't know, seems kind of like this is a weird self-destructive behavior, but, self-destructive behavior doesn't make any sense. And it's like, well, no, it internally makes sense to that person. Like, you have to include that. And there are times where she just does things where I'm like, what? Why is she doing, like, this doesn't benefit her. It doesn't really scratch any sort of itch that she has. It just seems like weirdly, like, just so extreme in a way that feels kind of like, what is her behavior? What is she doing this for? What motivated this? Like it's fine if you have a character that's, like, has problems, but sometimes like, the things that she struggles with, her behavior and the stuff that she's experiencing don't always match up in as much as I'd like them to, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, as someone who, I'm not very familiar with disassociating, because I don't know if I've ever done it or experienced that. I guess I wouldn't know because I was disassociating. I don't know, but I'm not sure if I've ever truly experienced something like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I can comment on that.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be. I mean, I think usually with disassociating, I mean, you can definitely know that you've done it, but it's also like you have to have the psychoeducation to, like, even know what it is. It was like, it took me a really long time to even know that was what was happening to me. So it's like one of those weird things where it's definitely something you can know happened to you, but you have to, like, have the psychoeducation first,
right,
to even understand that's what it is. So that's kind of, a weird thing. But yeah, I think maybe that could be, like, I definitely see her behaving in ways that I can, like, sometimes relate to, and some of the stuff she does is like, I can relate to. Even sort of, like, the self-destructive things I can relate to in some cases, but then, like, yeah, there's just, like, weird things where I'm like, this doesn't match up. Like, I don't, like, this behavior is something you would do when you're feeling this way about something, and she's not feeling that way about something, it doesn't seem connected to, because she's dealt with so much trauma, so it does, like, you could make it work, but it's just, like, they just don't completely match up. So, yeah, I do, that's kind of my thing, but I don't know. Yeah, it would be nice. I wish she was more, like, competent. It would be fun to watch that show, but what are you gonna do? We'll get there eventually, but we're just not there
for
yet.
now. Right, for now, this is the show we have.
Yeah. But I personally think it's better than C. So.
Yeah, I guess I would have to say it's better than C because I don't have to, like, I don't know, take anti-anxiety medicine to watch it.
Yeah.
No, not that I have to do that to watch C, but man, oh man, I have to really take a few deep breaths. Like, I have to really like psych myself up to watch that show.
I know, you gotta like take a walk before and after, like a really brisk walk to be like, need to prepare my body for this, just being stressed out and frustrated. Yeah, it is. It's and I mean, In the Dark had some, we probably more than C also had some really real, like there were some moments in the first season that were super super real, like blind people, like prejudice, like when she gets arrested, like there's a lot of moments that felt like, oh my gosh, this is almost too real. So I mean, you know, even though those can be equally stressful to watch, like good on them for like creating something that actually shows, you know, the scary things that we go through in a way that feels real and isn't, you know, weird or manufactured or you know, kind of like just not something that, like, you know, we're not watching her be like, I'm blind, isn't it so sad? Which in a way C does some of that stuff. Seems like a lot of the characters are kind of like that. So that's, I mean, In the Dark is good for that. Yeah.
It's nice to watch a show that every now and again I'm like, wow, I feel seen. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I definitely can't, you know, relate to Murphy on every level, but a lot of the situations that she gets into, oh yeah, I've been there, or I've been in a proximate situation.
Right. But the emotional energy, it doesn't feel false. It just feels like a blind person's writing it. It's really what it feels like. I mean, that's as best I can say it. Yeah. Yeah, which is, I mean, it's nice. I would love to have way more of these shows. I mean, you know, we're finding some media. I don't think we have, there doesn't have to be one TV show with blind characters. Like, we can have as many as we want. That's my theory.
Make more.
Yeah.
Make more shows like this.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to be like CW murder dramas. Like,
they could be anything.
A sitcom. It can be a workplace comedy. It can be like a workplace comedy set at a guide dog school. I would watch that.
Oh my god, yeah. Fuck yeah. I would kind of watch that even more maybe than In the Dark. I mean, I would maybe write that also. Or just like, you know, like a fucking sitcom with like a blind main character, or like, or even just like a group of like blind characters that, you know, do some sort of like, you know, there's a few different shows that are, I guess they're sort of workplace things, but like, you know, have like a group of blind people that are friends, like a Broad City with blind people. There's so many like great shows we could do that aren't like, the one sad thing about C and In the Dark is they're both so gritty. Like, you don't need that.
I mean, in the Dark is like CW gritty. I mean, it is still a CW show. Like, all of the people are beautiful. It's very bright. It's very, you know, it's. However, this is actually a step in the right direction for the CW, because when long ago when I was in college and taking one of my media classes, I would talk about, you know, I analyzed like how many. I looked at the GLAAD report actually, which comes out every year, which is super interesting. And it is an analysis about LGBTQ and disability representation in television. Ooh. And out of all of the broadcast TV channels, the CW for that year, when did I look? What report was I looking at? It was like 2014 or something. But point is at the time, CW had no disability representation. None.
Oh, wow.
You couldn't find a single show with any disability representation.
Did other channels have those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, but they were there. But disability was present. But now, like, CW has a show centered around a disabled person, and I can't, off the top of my head, can't think of anything else on broadcast TV right now that centers on a disabled person.
Yeah, there were some streaming shows. I know, like, well, they had like what was it, like Speechless, which I never saw, but didn't that get canceled?
Speechless is so good. It did. Unfortunately, it did get canceled. Yeah. Speechless is amazing. I love Speechless so much. You can still watch it on Hulu, I believe.
Okay, but it wasn't
And
it
it's
on TV?
yes,
Yeah.
and it's totally worth a watch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speechless is a great show.
That's why we should have Patreon episodes if we do a Patreon. Yeah, it's I think first of all, disabled people 20% of people, so we should have at least 20% of shows should be about them, and you can really do more. You don't have to make it just 20%.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I mean, you might as well. Why not have more? It's way more fun to see stories about disabled people because disabled people already do a lot of the stuff that makes drama work. Like, there's so much manufactured drama that you have to, like, when you go to film school, it's so much about manufacturing drama and adding all these ridiculous, like, bending over backwards to make your characters be in peril. And, like, being a disabled person is just constantly engaging in that way. Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, just give us a normal life and we're going to have to deal with all of this bullshit. You really have to do it's like such an easy lift when it comes to like creating stakes.
Yes.
Like, it's just, it makes TV easy to write. So like really every show should have a disabled character. Or like the main character should be disabled. Why not? I mean, like, what would be the harm in that? Because you can also
I mean,
like, they could be disabled and queer, they could be a disabled person of color, like, just make them disabled, and then you can have a wide variety of identities on top of that as well, because why not? Like, there's no reason not to. Able people don't need to see themselves represented in media. They really don't need that. It's not important. Anyway, this is my new trying to envision a better world to work towards, so this is my new idea.
Exactly. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
please.
I'm hoping maybe we'll get there. I mean, I think that like TV at least has tried to like have more queer and people of color on television. I think there's been a push for that. So, disability is not there at all, but hopefully it's next. This is my hope. Or at least, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple others that we could also move forward with, but I'm hoping we get a much more TV becomes even more representative of people, especially when it comes to disability. Yes, okay, that's season 1 of In the Dark. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up the season?
I think we did it.
Okay.
Honestly, I do. Yeah, I think we did it. I'm just super glad that we started watching the show, because honestly, I'm not sure after the first couple of episodes if I would have hung on for this long if I was just watching this on my own.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it just Murphy is such a prickly character, and I don't know if I could have. I don't know if I would have spent enough time to watch her progress.
Yeah.
Because I just don't really identify with her that much as far as like personality and stuff. But because we watched everything the whole way through, and we got to see like these situations and everything, and these situations that you and I have been in.
Right. Also, she's so fucking tall.
She's so fucking tall. Oh my
I'm
God.
like, I wish oh my God, what I would do to be that tall. That would be so great. Yeah. What? It's so distracting to me. I mean, it's weirdly enough, it's like I could never relate to being that tall. Like, I wanted to be tall for my whole life, and I'm extremely short, so I'm like, this is not relatable. Too tall. But yeah, I mean, I hope that she learns some more too. She definitely has room to grow still.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, are you excited for season 2? I actually am excited for season 2. I'm excited to talk about it.
No, I'm excited. I want questions to be answered. I want to meet new characters. I want to see what these characters that we've grown to love are doing. So yeah, I'm super stoked.
Okay, so let's do our final blindness acuity test for season 1 of In the Dark.
Yeah.
Melissa, what are you giving this this season. Do you want to do the first season as a whole?
I think that's fair.
Okay. What are you giving
It.
combined first season?
Man, oh man. I'm gonna do it. 2,400.
Nice.
I think overall, 2,400, because I mean, not only is it's amazing to have Murphy as a main character who's blind. The character is, the actress is not, but a character who's blind. But we also deal with her life and her place in this really weird blind community of friends that she has. I mean, we get to know her parents. We get to know about Guiding Hope. And I think, like we've said before, having people who on the writing staff who are actually blind makes so much sense and makes everything feel real and grounded, as grounded as it can be.
Yeah.
It's, it's a TV drama, but for what it is, nice. it's there. And it looks like care went into the decisions that they made. Yeah,
definitely. I agree. I think for my final rating, I'm gonna give it a 2,200.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think I feel like I actually might have last week given it. I think I gave it a higher rating.
I think you did too.
Yeah, I did. But I think that just because the final episodes are, I mean, she doesn't get damseled exactly, but it's close almost. I think that I just really wanted to see her be the one I wanted to figure out who killed Tyson with her. And it felt like she was playing catch up because she had to figure it out way after we already knew the case. Which is it's weird. I just thought it was weird plotting, and I wanted to see her kind of be a more active character, far more active in the final discovery of who killed Tyson. So I think that's why I went down a little bit from last week, because I wanted, and I also I think in some ways I thought that she was growing more as a character, at the end of last week, the episodes we watched last week, and I felt like these three, she's almost backslid a little bit, or not that much, but it didn't feel like she continued to grow in the way I was hoping for. But overall, I agree with everything you said before. I think that having blind writers and it being pretty actually feeling the blind experience in a lot of different ways throughout the season, it definitely is why I want to give it a legal blindness. I feel like it's used a lot of blind stuff as plot points that, we see her using assistive technology with her phone, and there's so many things where we just have spent so little podcast being well, this doesn't make sense as a blind person. Why wouldn't she be doing this? Because she's always kind of doing what makes sense as a blind person. Even if her dysfunctions don't make sense to me, her blind decisions do. And that's really nice, which is why I want to give it a 2,200, because I think that it deserves legal blindness. And I'm willing to put it higher. I just want to see her. I want to see her grow more as a character. I want to see her, just kind of take more responsibility. I feel like she doesn't take a lot of responsibility for her actions in a way that doesn't always seem, it just seems kind of annoying to me. I'm just why not? I feel like a lot of us deal with, especially being a blind woman, you just take responsibility for things that aren't your fault. And so the fact that she doesn't take responsibility for the things that are her fault, I'm okay. That seems kind of suspect to me, but so I wanted more of her being, seeing her character as someone we can empathize with, as opposed to be frustrated with. So that's, so I'm sitting at 2,200, but I'm very excited to see season 2, and I'm happy to make it more blind as we go along, if it deserves it,
Yes. Yeah. I would like to see, besides Murphy and Chloe, I'd like to see some more blind characters introduced. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, we need. I was just listening to a podcast and they're interviewing the writer of they did a Babysitters Club show on Netflix. And I'm like, you should
Oh,
have like
yeah.
the same. You could totally do like blind kids, or like, you know, like some
Sure.
sort of like group of blind kids doing stuff. Like that would be so fun to have like a bunch of blind like young women doing things. I was just in my
That would
head
be
thinking about that.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, make more shows that are just like, you know, fun and light and not murder. Make more blind shows without murder. That would be fun.
Right.
No murders at all.
There you go. Yeah. No murders at all.
That would be
I'm good
fun.
with that.
Yeah. So that I think that wraps it up. Then we have what we're doing next week.
Yeah.
which-
What are we doing next week?
That's a good question. So it is my pick, and it is also the Thursday before Valentine's Day next week is when the episode comes
Right.
out. So I thought it would be fun to do a romantic comedy. And
Ooh.
I have to like just to say right now, I'm worried that I'm getting my hopes up too much for this movie. So just to warn you, I'm hoping I'm like truly very excited about it, and I'm worried about how excited I am. But it's called You and Me. It came out in 2018. It's available on Prime Video. I think is the streaming platform that I found that it was available on. But it is for free with a Prime membership, so it's not like a
Oh,
renting.
nice.
Yeah, so it's free for us cool
Cool.
people with Prime. It's not cool. Jeff Bezos sucks, but
Yeah. But it's
But,
cool
you
that
know.
we can watch this movie.
Exactly. And it is a story about a romantic comedy about a blind man falling in love with a deaf woman. And guess what is very cool about this movie?
What is very cool about this movie?
The main actors are a blind woman, or are a deaf woman and a blind man.
Yes.
So I'm like very excited. It looks very fun. So yeah, so tune back next week for our Valentine's Day episode. The movie has the very original or very like descriptive and easy to find title of You and Me. The and is an ampersand. So I think that's helped me to find it on some things, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, so it's available on Prime Video, and we'll be talking about it next week. And then we have our blind asides. Melissa, what is your
Yes.
blind aside this week?
Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna be super duper pedestrian. My blind aside is the inauguration,
Which
To be
happened 2
honest.
weeks ago.
which happened 2 weeks ago. Correct. And it's still sticking with me. It's just that and all of the Bernie memes, the Bernie Sanders memes, which are absolutely giving me life right now.
What are the Bernie memes? I did not watch the
So-
inauguration, so
Yeah. So the inauguration was beautiful, and President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris and gave wonderful, moving speeches and were amazing. Amanda Gorman, I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She is the Youth Poet Laureate, the first Youth Poet Laureate of the country, basically.
my
And
sister
she-
sent me a link to the poem, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yes. Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, was amazing, and then he passed like a bunch of executive orders a couple weeks ago, and
Good
I'm just so
translating
happy.
for our air dates here.
Yeah. I'm just so happy to have a president that gives a shit.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel so good, and all of just this collected sigh of relief that has been going around the
Oh
country.
no, that you're dooming
you know.
since we still have 2 weeks until this
Oh.
comes out. So you're dooming. There's going to be like nuclear war within a week, and
That's
then it's
true.
going to
That's
going
true.
to seem really ridiculous. No,
Right.
Hopefully
Okay.
not.
Well, the Bernie memes. So
Yeah, the Bernie memes.
So Bernie Sanders was caught in this like really candid pose, and he's just like sitting in a folding chair on the at the Capitol, and he's got this big old like brown oversized coat. But you like looking at the coat, you just know that's the coat he wears to everything because he's Bernie and he only has one coat. Because why would you have more than one coat?
right.
And then he's got these
Even though he's
huge-
Burlington, Vermont, man,
Right,
the famous
right.
place of coats.
Right. The coat capital of the country.
Yeah.
And he's wearing these giant patterned mittens, like they're huge. And he's got a mask on, but he's got his arms crossed and his legs crossed. And he just has this just his, you can't tell what his facial expression is because of the mask, but his whole body just gives off this energy of like, meh. I'm here.
I mean, that's
I'm here and it's cold.
Yep.
Yeah. And the memes, so people have been photoshopping him into current and classic events.
Classic.
And
meme.
it's wonderful. So it's Bernie riding across the Delaware with Washington in that famous painting. And
it's
Bernie,
like the sad Keanu of 2021.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. And somebody did one, like it's Bernie and Deadpool side by side, and they're like sitting together, but Deadpool is like in the exact same pose from the movie. And it's great. It's just fantastic. And they're wonderful. And people have like captioned the picture. Yeah, it's great. So
I'm gonna have
so
to check
Bernie,
these out. Yeah.
Yeah, you really need to check these out. The Bernie memes have been giving me life. It's wonderful.
Bernie, actually Keanu and Bernie are both heroes of mine. So I love a good Photoshop. So it's right up my alley. That is awesome. So yeah, and I have something for my blind aside that is entirely music. The Bernie memes are all visual. So I was like, could I play a clip of a Bernie meme? And then I was like, no. I cannot.
I can read you a bunch of them, but no.
Yeah, but this is good. So I'm gonna put mine blind aside is the Avid Brothers.
I love them. Yeah,
they're great. I was just re-listening to them. I think I'll put in a clip though, since we're on the phone. I have to put in the clips in post, so you'll be hearing a clip now. Picked out a clip that's from their newest album, Gleam No. 3, which they've done 2 of them before, weirdly enough. And the song is called Untitled No. 4. I've just been re-listening to their whole catalog. I actually have a tattoo of one of their lyrics on my arm.
That's so cool.
I am a big fan of theirs. But yeah, it's just been a good, like, it's very sweet. They got some banjos and just very I don't know, their music is weirdly very life affirming, and sometimes when there's a lot of chaos, it's always good to kind of like, even though it's very emotive music, it's also feels kind of, it's comforting and emotive at the same time, which is like kind of what I need right now. So yeah, so that's the Avid Brothers. They have so many albums. My Emotionalism is the one that was super important to me for a big part of like high school and stuff, and but actually other albums of theirs have also been really important to me. They have a really great catalog and a very prolific one. They've been a band for a long time and have put out, I don't know, I think like 12 or something studio albums at least. I don't know exactly the number. But tune in next week for You and Me. And we're gonna get very Valentine's Day. Very, very fun. Our theme song is by Lucia Fasano. Our YouTube is Citizen White Cane Podcast. I just like made a bunch of like playlists on our YouTube of like different things. So if you want to like, if you like listening to episodes on YouTube and want to like, I just came up with playlists like for the foreign films or like female blind characters or whatever. So check those out. You can also put on closed caption for transcripts of the episodes. Our Twitter is White Cane Pod. Our Instagram and our Facebook are both Citizen White Cane. If you'd like to send us an email, our email is citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voice message, which we would love, there's a link in the show notes. Who did you think, even if you saw the whole first season of In the Dark, who do you think should have killed Tyson?
Would you be brave enough to turn your business into a drug front?
Ooh, yeah. And actually, if you run a guide dog school, is it like is it a drug front? Like maybe find a way to make your voice.
Are all guide dog schools just drug fronts?
Yeah. If you're investigative reporter who's been trying to break this story, let us know so we can break it instead. That's how that works. Or just want to say hi, and if you have an idea of a movie we can do, there's a link in the show notes. Rate the podcast, and subscribe, review it if you can. That would be great. And also just like if telling people is probably the best way. We're still trying to get an audience for the podcasts, and I feel like we've gotten better at making them, but I want us to get more people listening to them. So.
Yes, please.
So yeah,
that would be super cool.
That'd be great. So spread the word, and thank you for listening to the podcast. And come back next week, and we're gonna get all lovey-dovey, or maybe not. Maybe we'll be disappointed. We'll find out. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Citizen Viking.
Do you keep a log of the IP addresses that use your Wi-Fi?
No.
Okay. Can I speak with the manager?
It's me.
Did anyone suspicious looking or like like murdery come in here on March 6th?
Like 7 months ago? You serious?
Jules and Murphy were sheepish expressions.